I have a lot of things to talk about, but at the beginning of every interview, I like to throw some curveballs. So here we go.
Yeah.
If someone has never seen anything that you've done, what's the first thing you want them watching?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know. I think Shazam actually probably. Well, I don't know. It's a toss-up between Shazam and Chuck. I think both of those projects represent kind of the things that I love so much about, I don't know, entertainment, like the heart and the humor that's involved in both of those projects. Very much in my wheelhouse, very enjoyable for me to do. I would say actually Shazam, Fury of the Gods, if I could point to that, I'm super pumped about that. And I feel really good about it. I think we, obviously it's not out for a little while, but based on our shooting experience, I think that might end up being a thing that I would point people to first, but something in there, but, or American Underdog. I think this is also going to be a great opportunity for people to see a really great story and something I'm very proud of, the performance I put into it. And Kurt as a character is a really fun one to play. Difficult in some ways, but very enjoyable.
Oh, I have so many follow-ups to everything you said. But,
sure.
When did you feel like you made it as an actor that you could pay rent by just acting?
I did a show called Less Than Perfect. It was a multi-camera sitcom on ABC. Let's see, we got picked up in 2002. So yeah, in 2002, after about 3 years of grinding and, getting pilots that didn't get picked up and the heartbreak that comes with that and going back to bussing tables and working at a car wash. And then finally Less Than Perfect was picked up. And that was the last time I had to have any kind of a regular job, and I could just depend on the acting to pay the bills, which was a glorious time.
I know that you like playing video games.
What?
I know. What is the favorite console? What's the one that you get trapped on the island and this is the one that's coming with me?
I would say on hours logged, I would say the Xbox. I probably have played my Xbox more than my PlayStation or my Switch for sure, but I think they all have great pros and cons. I mean, I don't know that I could live on that deserted island without playing The Last of Us, and I could only play that on a PlayStation, so that's tough. But the Switch is so great because it's so portable, and I can travel with it and take it with me wherever I go. And I just wish you could get Netflix and stuff on the Switch. I really think they need to up that game. You know what I mean?
Listen, I love the Switch, but I also think that the loading time, I'm ready to throw it through the roof. Like, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons to the Switch, but more pros than cons.
Yeah, I think so. I think with all of the systems, to be honest, they're all so great nowadays.
100%. I miss Comic-Con. I know you must miss Comic-Con. Do you have a favorite Comic-Con that you attended? Like one from all the years where one just like sticks out, or are they all sort of like a love of all of it?
Well, there's many Comic-Cons. I'm assuming you're meaning Comic-Con that's in San Diego.
I'm talking about San Diego.
I don't know, man. I mean, honestly, the first year that Chuck got picked up, and that was the first year I'd ever gone to Comic-Con. So that was 2007, I think. Yeah, 2007. That was incredibly magical and memorable. Ballroom 20, which is where we ended up doing our panels for many years, was packed to the gills, mostly thanks to Adam Baldwin and his Firefly following and all that, but people loved the pilot that we showed. We showed them the whole pilot and people gave us a standing ovation. I was like, this is insane. This is so incredible. And then I don't know, man. Doing Nerd HQ there for many years, like those are probably definitely some of my most memorable, most enjoyable memories, just being able to provide so much joy to the talent and the fans and everybody in between. And but as far as like as an actor, just going and promoting something, coming back as Shazam in, what was that, 2018, I think it was, before the movie came out. I think it was 2018. That was mind-blowing. Like to know that I started that journey as this guy playing, a disenfranchised nerd who knows there's more to his life, but he's stuck working at this, big box electronics store. That's where I started my Comic-Con journey to all the way to being a full-fledged superhero in his own spandex. was insane. It was just one of the coolest. Like it felt very surreal, and yet it was very, very real. And I hope I get more moments like that.
Yeah, the pandemic really sucks for many reasons, and one of which is losing Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Jumping into why I actually get to talk to you today, was this a role that you talking about? American Underdog. Was this a role that you hunted, or did they hunt you?
More the latter, actually. Yeah, I mean, I was always a huge fan of Kurt Warner's and this whole story. I mean, I think anybody who was aware of it at the time, and a lot of us were, recognized just how special and magical the whole thing was. Like for somebody to, go from stocking shelves in a grocery store and not too long after that get drafted as a much, much older rookie than would be normal, and then to be on the bench, but then immediately get called up in your second year and bring your team all the way to the Super Bowl and win it and, get MVP and all that jazz. Like you can't script that stuff. Well, you can. We scripted it and made a movie out of it, but it's incredible. So I was always a fan of the story. And to the extent that if they ever made a movie of it, it would be something that I think would be really cool. The reality was I was unavailable for the movie until the pandemic. So I had Shazam 2 and some other projects that were all lined up, and they, because I was unavailable, were moving forward. The Erwin brothers had always kind of had me in mind. I think myself and a few other people were kind of some of their top choices, but I was unavailable. And then all of a sudden, this crazy stuff starts going down in the world. All of my projects at that moment all got pushed or put on hold or whatever it was. And the same thing happened with American Underdog. But because of its production size and because Lionsgate was open to trying making it happen, and the Erwin brothers were open to trying making it happen in the pandemic, and we could figure it out. It was a much more manageable production than, let's say, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. That's a much larger thing to try and coordinate in the middle of the pandemic. But they were able to spin up American Underdog, and I was already friends with the Erwin boys. We were collaborating on another project, and they go, "Listen, we really think that you're our Kurt Warner. You've been, our top choice and one of our top choices for a long time. You weren't available. Now you are. Would you be open to this?" And so that's kind of how it came to be. And I thought, I read the script. The script is fantastic. I laughed, I cried. I was very moved by, so much of the story that I didn't even know before. Everybody knows the football side of Kurt's story, but very few people know the journey that he and Brenda and their kids went through, the struggles that they went through, that I think are incredibly relatable to, anyone who's gone through any kind of struggle. You recognize that, life is not easy, and particularly for them in Iowa at that time in their lives, they were, pinching pennies and struggling just to get by, but never letting go of the dream, never letting go of this dream, this vision that Kurt really believed that he had since he was a kid. And so all of it just felt very, I don't know, it felt very fated. It felt like, not to say that the pandemic was fated and then therefore I was fated to be in this movie, but I do think that God does some pretty cool stuff making lemonade out of lemons. And the pandemic was a hell of a lot of lemons for a lot of people. And I felt like this was some really tasty lemonade that I got out of it.
What would you rather spend the day doing, wearing the NFL uniform or the Shazam suit?
Probably the NFL uniform, just because at least I could drop a deuce if I needed to. You got to take the whole darn Shazam suit off if you want to go number 2, which is not very convenient. Let me tell you. You got to be very careful about your diet. Like no Taco Bell, not a lot of chili. You never know what's going to be just running through you, and you're like, oh, unzip me, I gotta go.
It's funny you say that. I just did a set visit in Ireland. And I was thinking, we were on location away from a lot of things. And I started thinking about, I really need to be thinking about what I'm about to eat and drink, because you're in the middle of nowhere. But that's a whole, I don't mean to put myself in that, but
no, it's okay. It's relatable. I totally understand.
Yeah, it's crazy. So one of the things, the NFL is the most popular sport in America, but it's amazing to me that so few movies get made or even TV shows. Did that even enter your brain at all? Like, this is a completely random thing, but you would think more stories would be told about the NFL, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a couple of factors that are probably, and I'm not the authority on this, but I just in kind of, top of my head, I would say that, one, American sports are obviously very popular in the United States. I think sometimes studios are wondering, well, will this translate internationally?
Oh,
American football, I think, though it is probably, the most famous or, most successful American pastime, translates less internationally than baseball or basketball. Both of those have a more international presence. So if you're going to make a story about a professional sport, those might translate a little bit more internationally. Another reason I think that's probably behind that is the NFL has always been from my knowledge, they've always been very protective of their brand to the extent that they don't want, like, for example, Any Given Sunday, which I thought was a really fun movie, right? But that movie doesn't necessarily paint professional football in all of the brightest light. There's a lot of like dark side or other angles to what that story was. Well, the NFL wasn't going to have that. They were like, listen, we don't want to do that. Whereas like Major League Baseball, you could go make Major League, which was about real, Major League Baseball teams and like all of the crap and all of the crazy things that go on. It doesn't paint everybody exactly in a great light, but the MLB was like, go for it. You know what? That's a fun story. That's a funny story. And it didn't, I think, end up doing any damage at all to the reputation of Major League Baseball. And if anything, people loved that movie and it got them a little more interested in baseball when they watched it. So I think there's a couple different factors like that,
Oh, these are all excellent points.
Yeah.
What surprised you the most about sitting down with Kurt and Brenda that perhaps you just, that really surprised you about talking with them and getting ready for the movie? Were there certain things that you're like, you know what I mean? Like, interesting. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I got you. I mean, I would say that learning about their story, first and foremost, I mean, reading this script and learning all these things that I was not aware of, that again, most people I don't think are aware of. That was fascinating. And then, I only got to sit down with them for a couple of days before we started shooting because the pandemic obviously was making travel and hanging out with people all very, crazy and limited. But then they then were on set with us a lot. I mean, maybe even more than half the time they were there on set. And, mostly just observing, occasionally would have a note or a thought here and there. Maybe like this moment kind of happened more like this, or this is where they were more emotionally. And I would try to, look, if you got that well, I would go to that well as much as I could. Like, does that, like when you come onto the field, I remember asking him, was like, which way did you, unbuckle or unclip your chin strap, or like, what do you do? Like this was kind of his move. He would come out and he'd kind of, do two fingers to this guy. And, it's all those things that sometimes, even when you're watching tape or whatever, you don't necessarily know that these are the habits or these are like the little minutiae things. But with Brenda and Kurt, to be honest, the thing that I always knew or saw in all the press coverage or, the stories told about them was that they were a really solid unit. Like they were a couple that really loved each other, really got along, really cared about each other, really supported each other. And so to see all that manifest in real life in very, very, very real ways, like even to this day, they are they're an inspiring couple, genuinely. The way they love each other, the way they love their kids, the way they parent, the way they, coexist all these years later, it's relationship goals. And so I was not surprised in that I had heard that or seen that, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that that was the truth.
Was tougher, the barn dance or filming the football scenes?
Oh, filming the football scenes for sure. I'm a bit of a dancer, so the barn dance wasn't too bad. I learned that pretty quick. But no, man, the football stuff. I was only given about a month and a half to try and figure out how to be a Hall of Fame, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I wish I had more time. Again, pandemic. We had limited time and resources. I had a great football coach, Clint Dolezal. And he really, talk about a crash course in becoming a quarterback. Like we did it. But you want more time. You want to, also, some of the hits in the movie that Kurt takes, that was me. I had doubles that took some of the crazier hits, but there were a lot of hits that, I genuinely took. And that's not nearly as enjoyable as, wearing cowboy boots and dancing around and, but it was also kind of fun. I enjoyed the simulation. I mean, granted, a much slower scale simulation of being an NFL quarterback. He was getting hit far harder than I ever was when we were making the movie. But yeah, it definitely left some marks, some bruises, some bumps and bruises. Yeah.
At least you're like 6'2", or you're tall. You have some weight. If I tried to do anything that you did, I would literally be killed. I would,
I mean, it's possible, but we would also have medics on standing by. So
wouldn't help. Listen, before I run out of time with you, as you know, I am kind of a fan of Shazam. Kind of. It was kind of good. I want to lower the ego.
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah.
Of course. But seriously though, for fans that love the first one like me, what can you tease about the sequel?
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you know how I feel about spoilers. So or how we all should feel about spoilers, which is we don't say them. But I will say that I genuinely, and this is not just lip service, I really do think that we, I'm very proud of the first one. I think we made a really, really good movie. I think the second one is better. I think that we had more time, we had more budget. Everyone, we had essentially the entire cast returning, and we all knew our characters a little bit more. We could kind of sit into them a little bit more. Henry Gayden, who wrote the first script, wrote the second, and he did a fantastic job doing so. Yeah, I don't know, man. Everything just clicked even a little bit more and a little bit more. And also the kids have grown up a little bit more. So even the sensibilities of them becomes even slightly bit more mature, which brings it closer to my adult mind, which means or other people's adult minds. So there's even more, connection there, I think, or whatever. But the action's great. The comedy's great. The relationships are great. The bad guys, Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu, are fantastic. I'm very proud of it. I want it to come out sooner than June of 2023.
That's the thing that makes me crazy, because I was looking at the release date. I'm like, oh, it comes out next summer. And I'm like, Are you effing kidding me? It's 2023?
Yeah, 2 summers. Yeah.
I'm not down with this.
Well, listen, I mean, look, fortunately, we are amongst a huge group of very cool characters and actors that play those characters, that they're already more established in a lot of ways because of the DC movies that pre-existed before we came in. So we're kind of like we're a little bit of a JV coming into the varsity squad. And, there's a lot of titles that need to come out to the world. And so if that's where we fall in the queue, because I get it, studios have to be, you have to make a concerted effort about not cannibalizing your own titles. Like you can't release them too close to each other, otherwise you might cannibalize each other. Plus you have to take into consideration all the other studios' releases and all that stuff. So that's where it is. But you never know. Maybe it'll come out sooner. Here's hoping and praying. I hope.
Listen, summer 2023 means they're very confident in the movie. It's just that's the time that they figured out. So I of course have to ask you: have you been in any contact with Dwayne and bad mouthing each other about who's actually going to win when you two fight? No.
I mean, there's been some funny little things back and forth, in character on Twitter or something. I saw somebody had asked him, how could Shazam possibly stand up to Black Adam? And to which he replied, he doesn't. But then he labels it Black Adam, as if Black Adam is saying that. So I don't know. I don't know Dwayne. I have no communication with him, but I know that we're all going to be a part of we're all a part of the same big happy DC family, and I look forward to whatever cocktail parties we're all at together.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the two of you in a film together as your characters. I got to stop there, and I'm just going to say, seriously, congrats on American Underdog.
Thank you.
You did such a great job, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you.